Morning guys, welcome back to the shed Saturday morning. I've purchased a LPH80 spot repair gun. I'm going to have a little review today about where you'd use the gun, what the gun's been designed for, what sort of pressures to use, what sort of finishes you can expect out of your gun. The literature with the gun, very impressive. It only uses 1.8 CFM of air, only uses 13 psi of pressure. A little bit sceptical when I first see the gun. I won't say I was disappointed, but a little bit curious. Having used the Vilbus SRIs, the Sartor Mini Jets, various other small guns, when I opened this up, as you can see, good looking gun, Iwata quality, never anything wrong there. And I see the size of the air cap. This is tiny. This is about the size of my thumbnail. So I thought this is going to be a small pattern, this isn't going to atomize very well. How was I wrong? This air cap must have horrendous technology involved with it. I chose the 1.2 tip. Lots of water-based paints and that I use, quite thick. I didn't want it to go, or want to go for a 0.8 or a 1mm tip. I thought that would struggle a little bit. So I chose the 1.2 HVLP air cap. As you can see, the engineering in that is absolutely sweet, and I think you're going to be surprised on that. Setting the gun up then, let's have a little play. I'll put a little bit of solvent in the top. Their suggested pressure 13 psi, just under a bar. Spot on with their readings. Sweet to the hand, feels great in the hand, but just look at that initial fan. For a little tiny air cap, that's a massive fan. That's as big as my Vilbus SRI. It's a good size fan. How is that fan usable? Let's start off with setting the gun. You'll start off about there sort of 13 psi and see what it does, and it gives a nice fan there so far. So how close should you be using this gun to the object? Wall of air test. Don't know how many know about the wall of air test, and I don't know if the microphone in the camera will pick it up. If you pull the trigger, let the air out, put your hand in front of the gun, move your hand towards the gun, you will see there's only one point where there's a distinct change of sound from the gun. That is where that gun is set at the moment. That's where his wall of air test is. Okay, so that's the distance you should spray from your part with the settings you've got at that time. If you change fan control, amount of fluid, or air pressure, that will change. It won't stay the same, obviously. So in this particular point, I'll demonstrate to you. If you can hear it, great. If not, you'll have to take my word for it. So we've got air on. I'll bring it close. Bring your hand forward. There. Can you hear that? There's a distinct point that air sound changes. So looking from the camera to the gun, that there is my wall of air test. So as my gun is set now, that is the distance from my panel. I've seen loads of painters do the finger and thumb test. This is how far. That's just a rough guide. I watch them walking around the car, changing the controls, changing the nozzles, changing the fluid, resetting the pressure. That will change. So you need to be aware of wall of air test. And wherever I do it from, here we go. Look on the camera and measure it on the lens if you like. I'm not changing anything. That's the wall of air test there. that's where you need to spray. Put a piece of paper on the end wall again. Let's do a little bit of a fan test on there and see what's happening, because this is the amazing part about this gun. I'll admit using a mask at the moment because I need to talk to you guys at the same time, but this is only just a little bit of base cut thinners. Wall of air test. Change that to the distance from your part. Put the fan. Look at the width of that fan. That's painted an 18-inch piece with just a few passes. That gun has got ample coverage. It's got an ample width of fan, even for that tiny nozzle. That is truly amazing. I'm really thrilled with that. Let's talk a little bit now about a spot repair, which is why this has actually been bought. Spot repairs. If you go to any training school and get trained up for your smart repair industry, this is one of the favourite guns they'll supply you. When you do the training, they're advising, and they're quite correct, a smart repair is nothing bigger than your hand. Your job should be contained in that size. Now that means your dent, your filling, your primer, base coating, clear coating, your blend, that's the size you should be looking at. And this is why this gun, I think, is best suited for this industry. With that small nozzle, it helps you contain that size of repair. Obviously I've got the gun at the moment set full extreme, but you can set that nozzle down to very small, but with the settings you're available to make with it, you can have good atomization, lots of paint, very minimal overspray whatsoever, so your repair is contained in the smallest area possible. I'll just do another sample on the wall over there, and I'll show you just how tiny that you can actually get this. I hope you can see it, because I appreciate the camera from there back to the wall isn't really very good. We'll choke down the nozzle to make the fan as small as possible, and we'll screw in the paint, and we'll just come back out like half a turn. So this is tiny. Once again, wall of air test change, air pressure change. Because I've changed the size of the fan, my pressure is automatically changed. So we will go back down with the pressure. Wall of air, which is there. So once again, tiny. Little tiny dots. So if you can imagine blowing in a little tiny repair feather in the trigger, it can be absolutely dusted. This is actually material coming out of the gun now. You see how that fades to nothing? That will help your blend absolutely amazing. If I come back up to the gun, we'll look at this change in pressure when you change the nozzle or the size of the fan. So I'll put this back. If I can do it left-handed, you have to excuse me. When you change the nozzle or the width of the fan, gauge is low, screw it in, gauge is high. So that's made like a 50% difference in our setting of the pressure. That there is something that you have to watch. So when you're going around a job, fiddling with the controls, you need to once again set the gun completely. So don't just change the pressure, because your fan will change, fluid will change, everything changes. So you have to be aware of that. I'll set this back now to fully open fan and lots of material. Once again my pressure's dropped, so now I have to bring it up slightly. What I'm going to show now, I'm going to key the trigger, I'm going to let material come out the gun, and then I'm going to change the pressure, and it's something I spoke about in another video before. You have to set the pressure to what you want out of the gun. If you set it too low, it won't atomize properly, it'll be orange peely. If you set it too high, it has the adverse effect to that, where you go through a stage of it being very fine from an orange peel point of view to actually being very dry, and the width of the fan will go from nothing to where it should be, and then back to small again. over pressurizing the air cap will actually stop the paint coming out, or stop the pattern looking right. So if I demonstrate that to you now, you'll see. So we've got lots there, pressure down, you can see that's just spurting paint out. That's what's going to create your orange peel. Just move something out of the way. That's what's going to create your orange peel. So now we go back up. The fan is perfectly consistent all the way through, same amount of material. Now we put too much paint. We've got a hollow spot now in the middle of the gun. Most of the paint is top and bottom, but the whole fan has gone small. So when you're doing the setting up, lower the pressure. That's the fan at its nice. That's nice, most consistent throughout the fan. Check the wall of air, which is about there on this setup. If I move my hand down, if you look at that fan now, that there, you can see it, up there, is where my wall of air has set the atomizing to its best position. And that's how you get the best out of a gun. This is why I said in my last video, I'm not big on pressures, because you have to set the gun what you want out of the gun. And that's the best way of explaining it. I think I've covered everything. I made a little note here on the wall just saying what you really need out your gun, pressures, a bit of a review on this LPH80, which I think is fantastic. I'm absolutely thrilled to pieces with that. I can see why people like Bradley's who do the smart repair training, I can see why they like using that gun. Very simple to use, very easy to set up. And the beautiful thing with a small air cap, if you were actually painting a very small edge that say the polishers have mopped through and you just want to dust in an edge, the control on that gun is fantastic. It goes extra small because of the small air cap, because of the technology in the air cap. You can get it back to a full, like an SRI or a SATA 4000 mini jet fan size. So once again, absolutely incredible. I'm going to do a few more videos. They'll all be done here in my little shed over the weekend. Next one, I want to talk about painting plastic parts, the process that I use, especially on virgin plastics where it's come straight from the factory in a box. It may have release agent on it, whatever. So I'm going to show you the materials I use and the process that I use. I'm going to show you the correct way of applying plastic primers to make sure they work. I'm going to discuss a few different qualities in plastic primers. We can also discuss, there are like 2-pack etch type materials for plastics as well as just the ready for use single coat things. Then I'll take you further on then into metalwork. I'll probably get a fender or something in here, show you about the e-coating of the panels, start using my favourite material there's two favourite materials I use, the 285 Glasurit, which is a wash primer, which is just a once off, you don't need to even rub down the e-coating, it's absolutely fantastic adhesion, brilliant product. And another one I use, which is a Delfleet PPG, which once again is a wash primer. Both products absolutely outstanding. There's no fear of in 6 months time someone jet washing or steam cleaning your vehicle off and your paint flying off into the sunset. The quality of these materials are absolutely brilliant. So I'll split that up into 2 or 3 videos. I'd like to try and get to doing 1 or 2 videos a week if I can, subject to sort of time restraints. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed that little LPH80, which they classify as just the spot repair gun. So take that in mind, this whole gun has been based around a repair as big as your hand and fingers. They do supply it with a small pot. This is just a 70mm size pot, but you can get the 250, so the same as your SRIs and your DeVilbiss, and your SATAs as well. So you can use it for whatever. I would only use the bigger pot if I'm spraying, say, a quarter of a bumper, or if I'm painting like a wheel arch or an eyebrow. Once again, like I've done a few Saturdays ago, if I was actually painting mirror cover or something. Saying that, with this little tiny pot, minimal cleaning, I could mix enough paint in here, base coat or clear coat, just a tiny amount, just enough to do a mirror. because there's no overspray, very little waste. Obviously a compliant HVLP gun. That would do an absolutely fantastic job and save me probably 50% of materials choosing the right gun. So I'm well impressed with that. That's another one. As you see my review last time, the LPH80, 3/4 size gun, so the next size gun up to that. Once again, can't fault it. I've always been pleased with Iwata. I've used the W400s, base coat, clear coats, the Valerias for years. Fantastic gun, so I'm pleased to getting that and adding it to my collection. Once I've gone through my range of Iwatas, I've got a full range of De Vilbis, I've got a full range of Sartas, so we'll break them up into lots of little reviews. I'm not very keen on going into the budget line guns. They're okay for Saturday users, they're cost effective, they work great 5 times, fantastic. If you've just got a hobby, want to paint a car in the garage over a weekend, buy a new gun, use it. I hate to say this from the environmental point of view, throw it away. If you try cleaning it 5 or 6 times, each time you use it the gun will get worse quality, worse quality, worse quality. At the end of the day the gun will be splitting, sputtering and spoil your project. But they're aimed at, you know, the £20 budget gun. Buy a gun for the job. Keep it for spares for another one by all means, so like I say, the environmental issue isn't too great. But they are a disposable gun to do one-off jobs. So all the seals, gaskets, everything that's in the gun, they're great half a dozen times. You might spray 30 or 40 litres of paint through them, fantastic, and then they'll start to be troublesome. So I'm not going to go into demos of budget line guns. There's only one gun that I will say that's once again knocked me about a little bit, and that's the U-Pol minigun. It's hard to say anything about it really, because it'll catch you out. It's a fantastic gun, brilliant quality, fantastic chroming, all the knurling that's on all the controls, absolutely wicked. But the thing that got me, all the geometry of the gun, all the threads, all the seals, everything is exactly the same as the Sarta Minijet 3. I had 3 or 4 sets out of 0.8 to 1mm. I had a spot repair set up, a 1.1 HVLP,